1923. So it was a husband and wife duo that saw the need after the war that people need to rebuild. Our country is in great need of artisans.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when we open a store in South Africa, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. We come out, we are dancing, we are laughing, we are smiling. To use the resources that are available to train, to skill, to empower, and make sure that our people have got the competencies to sell. And I always say that a store is only strong when the store leader has the finance guy and the people person. If you want to be rich, don't work for retail, go work in London, go work for banking. The teacher of teachers is the retail environment.
Yeah. It's all your goosebumps, man. Makes them feel part of this thing that's growing.
Yeah.
And I'm really getting goosebumps here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the People Desk podcast. I'm Vaughan Buerta, and I'm going to be facilitating today's session. And our topic today is a global perspective on people strategy and development. And with me today, I've got two people that know more about this topic than most. And firstly, I'm going to introduce Bridget Padiashi. Bridget is our HR consulting manager. And Bridget, I took a little snippet from your bio. I just need to do this justice. So if you would bear with me. So Bridget strives to empower individuals and organizations to unlock their potential, creating future-ready environments where growth, collaboration, and integrity thrive. And I just think that's absolutely phenomenal. I think as HR professionals, probably top of the list for us at this moment is to, I think our world of work is evolving rapidly. And just to make sure that we help our people and our businesses, evolve just as quick. But then with us today, we have the absolute pleasure having a female leader in the HR space who I must say is transforming the retail sector, and especially the retail sector with regards to DIY and building. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the HR director of Leroy Merlin, Nthabiseng. Nthabiseng, thank you very much for joining us here today. It's just an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Vaughan. Thank you for the invite. I'm absolutely just so excited. It's such an honor. And thank you for presenting me as a transformational individual in the DIY environment. It's one of those environments that's not sexy enough.
Yes.
Nobody wants to work in retail. Nobody wants to sell to customers.
Yes.
Yet it's such an important, I think, part in our sector. Also, in terms of the economy and the GDP growth, retail is massive for any country. So thank you very much.
That is incredible. Yeah. And I must say, even with our research, we were not sure what to expect. But absolutely from the first moment we started looking at what Leroy Merlin does and what you do, it was phenomenally evident in terms of what your passion is and how good you are for your people. It's even on the vision and the philosophy of your business, everything that's underwritten on your website, we could just see you. And when we connected with you Monday, it was like these two parts were coming together. And we were like, we see what's behind this. So thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
I know learning and development is one of your passions. We very vividly spoke in our introductions about how you, in your philosophy, I think on Leroy Merlin, you speak about learning or sharing knowledge.
Yeah.
And can you maybe tell us about just who Nthabiseng is and maybe Leroy Merlin as well? Right? If you are busy with something at the moment.
So this girl is from Pietermaritzburg. Nthabiseng is a Sotho name. So everybody always assumes that I am from, Johannesburg and I speak Sotho. I'd love to, but I don't. I'm a Zulu girl from KZN. And really my career started way back working for one of the top retailers as a receptionist and got into the HR field. And in HR, I went into learning and development. And because I've always loved people, my name means happiness. Nthabiseng means happiness. And so I've always just had that inclination to want to see people develop, want to see people learn. The career of HR has been within me. I'm grown. And then now, fortunately, I've been working for one of the top retailers as far as I'm concerned, South Africa. Yeah. Leroy Merlin is number 3 in the world in terms of DIY and home improvement.
Incredible. Internationally
in the world. We are number 1 in Europe. So it's a big organization, a big company with over 100,000 employees around the world. And we're happy that we're contributing our just over 800 employees into that 100,000 bandwidth.
So far, hey?
Yes, yes.
That's incredible. And I must say, it started 1960s, if I understand correctly?
In 1923. So it was a husband and wife duo that saw the need after the war that people need to rebuild.
Hey, wow.
And that's where this interest then came in. And so came the stores, building within the European environment.
Wow.
Later on, also expanding towards South America. So we do have a couple of stores in Brazil, Sao Paulo and Rio, and a couple of other areas. And then in South Africa, 4 stores in South Africa. Very, very proud.
That's incredible.
And soon opening store number 5.
Okay, so it's official. We can say that.
Sure. It's official. We want to see you guys there. Bridget, Vaughan, we want to see you guys there. Store number 5 opening very soon.
That's incredible. And you come into this market, where we've got other players, and you bring this international flavor to, market that's always been dominated by a few.
Oh, yeah.
But you're very different, eh?
Yeah.
There's something different to Leroy Merlin.
There is a uniqueness, I think, that we bring because our DIY and home improvement landscape really brings forward this human, this female side. When you see our stores, they're bright, they're inviting. It's kind of brings that element that the CFO of the family, being the female, is the first to make the decision. Because as you enter into the store, you're welcomed by this decorative side. And obviously, yes, DIY, you need those tools, and they are there and they play a huge and important part. But I think what we wanted to bring in terms of South Africa was also an avenue of saying males and females can come into this space and co-build.
Yeah.
So we want the market to see that we are that service provider that can provide the one-stop shopping environment, but not only for the consumer, I think for our salespeople as well. Because it's important that the people that work within our environments and our stores are passionate about what they do and passionate to the people that they're selling to.
Yeah.
And that's the environment that we hope plays a part in the customer side as well as the sales side as well.
It is. And I must say, from the moment we started working with you, there's that inspiration, I think is probably the right word, and it makes us so proud. HR, I think usually is not really such an exciting topic for anybody, but you bring that passion and, we kind of sometimes get stuck in the compliance aspects, but if we look at what you're doing for your people, I saw on your website, even with all those learnerships, where everybody completing it and how they were speaking fondly about that.
Yeah.
Gosh, that just makes you excited, eh? It just makes you really feel that we're making a difference.
A huge difference. Vaughan, for me, developing people, moving them from one area to the next area is something that I love and very, very passionate about. And having had the opportunity way back 8 years ago when I joined the company to start and make sure that you integrate the international portion, because we have a number of expatriates that have come to share their knowledge with us and help us build more stores, to introduce them into concepts like the learnerships that are available, that we are here to build the skills of our people, that we're here to integrate also with the government to use the resources that are available to train, to skill, to empower, and make sure that our people have got the competencies to sell.
Yes.
But also, when you look at the learnerships, government likes playing a part in saying, what can private organizations do to get the unemployed individuals into a learning environment or into a working environment rather? And that's what we've also done, taking unemployed guys, putting them on a learnership, giving them training or retail sales skills, supply chain skills, working on those key elements to make them marketable in the environment.
That's the purpose. I think sometimes we get stuck in, if you would look at April coming now and we've got our work with skills plans to be done. Again, there's a compliance part of it. I need to do this for certain reasons, but the purpose behind that is, how do I take my people, grow them? And I mean, great example. I mean, if I just look at your career, how inspirational that is for any employee to see, man, if you work hard, you can really succeed.
Oh, yes.
And especially with Gen Zs, maybe, sometimes we are in this instant gratification world. We think that we're just going to wake up one morning and we're going to be into
exactly. Every newcomer that comes in, they want to have a top position, they want to earn more, but there's a little work that still needs to come in. And what we're saying is, you can be that next CEO. No one is stopping. In fact, I see each and every single individual that comes into our workspace as a potential leader, somebody that has the potential to take my job one day. somebody to take the CEO position one day.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we be proud to have a South African lead up this fantastic and major company into South Africa?
Yeah.
But I mean, just going back into your question as well around the development of our individuals, it's not just maybe getting the external guys coming in. It's also looking at the people that are within.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at retail has a scarcity, huge scarcity in leadership. You would not think. We don't have enough sales managers.
Right.
It's one of the scarce skills that is listed in the WNR CETA.
It doesn't seem like an exciting career, or why? Do you know why?
It's a variation. You know, retail in general is not the best pair out there. If you want to be rich, I used to know a CEO used to say, he will remain unnamed. If you want to be rich, don't work for retail, go work for banking, or go work in London, go work for banking. And because it's just not that environment that pays very well, but it's quite fulfilling. And I think that's where the scarcity comes in, is people look for different industries that will provide them with more remuneration, and nothing wrong with that. But still, I mean, today you might leave today and want to go and buy bread.
Exactly.
Where will you be buying the bread?
Yes.
Who will be selling you the bread?
Yes.
You know, you might want to go and put in, I don't know, petrol in your car or diesel, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And who will be servicing you in that environment? So we lose that in our sector and our economy, that somebody has to be there to cater for those needs. And and that industry that caters for those needs contributes 20% to the GDP of South Africa. That's a huge contribution in terms of the success of our country as well.
Yeah.
And people just don't take that into consideration. But if we work together with private organizations, we work together with the CETAs, we can try and plug in and make sure that we are making the environment of retail sexy, you know, encouraging, welcoming, where people can become professionals one day in what they do.
And look at your career. I mean, from where you started, I mean, this is exactly what you're talking about there. You know, you had those opportunities, and how your industry has given you those opportunities up until where you're now.
Exactly.
I mean, when we were talking earlier, whilst preparing for this, you sounded like the CEO of the business. You know, you spoke about this business, where you're going and what you're busy with, and how vitally important it is for our people to understand what our business is trying to do.
You know, if people don't understand what it is that the business is doing and which part they play within this ecosystem of the business, then we have nothing.
Yes.
You know, I always say that there are many retailers out there, you know, servicing us in different ways. And we're not unique in any way, because we're all selling predominantly the same products, just differently. What does make us different, though, what does differentiate us, is our people. It should be our people, because they need to, because you cannot replicate them. You know, you can't multiply them. They are the individuals that will be the ones that tell that customer and that consumer that there's something special here. You need to come and purchase. So we need to concentrate and build on them. You know, I always say that my career started very humbly, you know, as a receptionist, answering calls. But I knew that that's maybe not where I wanted to be forever. I wanted to evolve and do something different. And the retail environment allowed me to build myself. Later on, opportunities came in WNR CETA with the International Leadership Development Program. Further, you know, putting me through and understanding that management, executive side of the retail environment. How can human resources be a critical stakeholder to the organization?
A massive stakeholder. And, you know, what we advocate for is, you know, we you know, there's the transactional stuff, you know, your employee life cycle is important, but do you have somebody that is asking or answering some of your business questions? You know, we sit around a boardroom table and we're talking about what the vision of this company is. You know, we talk about Pambile, about growth, you know, where you guys are going, and that resonates with finances and operations. But there's such a massive human capital element behind that, and if it's not for your people, it's impossible for you to be who you are today.
100%. You know, 2 years ago, we went through a strategy, a vision campaign, and we involved all our employees. Yes, we are trading obviously 24/7.
All in South Africa?
All in South Africa. All in South Africa. And everybody had to, at some point, we had a rostering platform and system, but everybody came into a room somewhere. We discussed where we're going as a company. Where do the employees see the gaps that maybe are existing in the business? Where do they think that we could improve?
Wow.
We wanted to hear from them. And through that concept, we then built a vision for the next 5 years to say, and in that vision, people are first. Because once again, we realize that we can't be where we are or move or go forward without our individuals. Hence the building of this concept of Pambili, going forward together, building together, looking for these triangles, green triangles everywhere. And we can't do it alone. We can only do it with our people.
I think what's so important is, those values that we draft and those philosophies, they look great on paper, but how powerful is it what you've told me now? Those employees have helped craft this Pambile.
Oh, yeah.
It's making them feel part. I was all get goosebumps, man. Makes them feel part of this thing that's growing.
Yeah.
And I'm really getting goosebumps here.
That must be really difficult because if you think about your global presence and the HR strategy in South Africa, how do you, have the same ethos and carry through those values? And how does that work in your environment?
It's a privilege working for an international business, an international company. In fact, sometimes when you're recruiting and you've got prospective incumbents, calling you and wanting to find out more about Leroy Merlin, they want to come and join because of that international background behind that's sitting there as this large animal. And then the other challenge also is, how do we incorporate these values? Values can be on a piece of paper, on the wall, framed in a nice la-di-da frame. But who's living them? And then also another thing is, you have a business that it's on the other side of the continent, and then another one on the other side of the other continent as well. Like, there's two continents, but there's only one. There's a difference. But how do we build this together is by also ensuring that the goals that we have as an organization, whether we are in South Africa or we're not in South Africa, are the same. Internationally. Because what we want to do is make every individual around the world, their house must be the most beautiful place for them to live. And that is international. So you can be in Europe, you can be in Brazil, you can be in South Africa. It doesn't matter. If we are driven by the same philosophy, by the same ideology, it means that we will also exhibit that in what we do as well. And our people will exhibit the same thing.
Nice.
So wherever you go around the world, that's what you'll see. We want to make the place that our customers live in the best place for them to live, wherever they might be.
That's incredible. Do you find it difficult when people join the business for them to shift to knowing that, I'm part of something bigger? It's not just in the South African context, but, globally, this is a major national company. And, do you find your employees struggle to adjust, or what does that look like?
Not necessarily. And also because we still have a small contingent of the guys that come from Europe that come to share some of the knowledge. So we also integrated with some colleagues from France, we've got some guys from Ukraine, we've got people from different parts of the world there with us. So it starts kind of getting in that element that you're not alone. We're not just a South African, because we are a French business, but in South Africa. Yeah. So there's certain things that we do that are just South African, that will be unique for us. But also having these guys come around, and our CEO also infuse that DNA of that internationalness coming in. It starts making everybody feel like, wow, okay, I also want to act in a different way. I also want to do things differently. And we find a lot of our people aspire also to want to travel. They want to go overseas. They want to go and work if there's opportunities in Italy, if there's opportunities in Greece, opportunities in France. One day we'd like to make that a possibility for our people as well.
Is it vastly different though? You've got your international flavor, you've got Pambili on this side. How do you integrate those two?
I suppose it's the uniqueness. I call it a little bit of uniqueness. Though the stores look almost similar, if you travel to the Leroy Merlin stores overseas and you come to us in South Africa, it looks identical, almost the same.
Yeah.
It could be the products here and there that might differ slightly, but the concept of the people is the same. The concept of wanting to still help the customer and make the home the most beautiful place to live is exactly the same. Right. But it's the uniqueness, I think, that we bring. Sometimes when we open a store in South Africa, it's absolutely fantastic. We come out, we are dancing, we are laughing, we are smiling. And, we normally have the guys from Europe come through, and the president of our global entity comes through as well. And here we are just making up a song. And it's like, wait, did you guys all learn the song? Like, no, we learned it on the spot. Somebody spotted this, and then you just went on with this. because that's who we are. And I think we bring that boldness, we bring that courage. We're not afraid to get into things.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of a what can I say, a step back to being bold, I think, in our European stores. And that's where they love us the most, because we come with this boldness and like, oh, we also want to be just like them. When we open stores, we want to do exactly like they do.
Yeah.
We want to have that passion for, the customers as they walk through the doors. So yeah, there's that balance, but it's the great diversity that makes us unique.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. The diversity in thinking, diversity in markets. It's just incredible to see that at play, because it's not as easy as people think, right? And saying I work for an international company, fantastic, but I don't know any of my colleagues internationally. We don't engage. Our brand may look like it's consistent, and what you're sharing is that, right?
Yeah. It's that. Sometimes though, I'm painting a beautiful picture, and it is. It has been a little bit of a challenge when the store started, is the replica wanting to copy and paste the policies and procedures and how things are done in one area into another.
Yeah.
But I think we found over the time, after being at Leroy Merlin for 8 years, is we can't replicate everything.
Yeah.
There's certain things that have to be unique.
Yes.
So, like the uniqueness and boldness of our people.
Yes.
It takes a while to understand, why is it that all the time we're allowed?
Yeah.
Because we can.
Yeah.
We're in an environment where we can. Why is it all the time that we want to do things this way? Because we can, and that's the environment. And I think it's also easing on both entities to allow the uniqueness that comes with us being in the environment that we're in, and us also knowing that, okay, maybe in Europe it's not done in this way. But once again, what brings us together? Making the home the most beautiful place to live.
And you're catering for that localization.
Yeah.
And that is powerful, because you're bringing the South Africanness into it, right?
Yes.
And that's what makes us unique. If I look at talent strategies and I look at your journey, and all these amazing buzzwords that are happening in the HR space, it's great to see. But when I hear you talk, I hear around how intentional that, you and your team have been around development, how intentional you have been about localization. And that is great to see. And expansion with the 5th store, that talks to the unemployment rate.
Yeah.
And when you think about this international brand and what is it bringing to the South African context.
Yeah. The challenge is sometimes also when I just look at that localization, retail has a high staff turnover, as you can imagine. Already retail is not the best payer. It's known predominantly, and spoken about that. And what that means is that people leave for a very minuscule amount of money because they want the next best thing, and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We go for what's going to develop us. But it does bring a little bit of a challenge, because remember, we want our people to be skilled, but the more you lose, and then you're getting more people coming in, you're diluting that level of skill, that level of competence.
Yeah.
Also from a value proposition, there are those that were with us when we started our vision, and everybody's moving forward. We want to build our stores. We're passionate. We want to see these triangles. And then you're finding staff retention, natural attrition coming in. And the challenge is, how do we continue to build a continuous cycle of, even if we lose, we're not diluting.
Yes.
Instead, we are always making sure that whoever comes in has the same value proposition, understands the same, has got the competencies, the ability, the skill to be able to perform, and our service levels continue to not drop, but they're stable. If not, we exceed. So there's also that, and I think that's why L&D is, for me, critical and important. It is the one department where we feel we need to put more investment in.
Okay.
Training our people, making sure that they know what it is that they're there to do, and increasing the customer journey as well.
Yeah.
Because when your people know what it is that they're supposed to do on the sales floor, and not just the sales floor, but also in the specialist role.
Yeah.
Because head officer always feel they get the bad rap.
Yeah.
Don't see things about HQ. It's always this, but then yes, they push the sales.
Yeah.
But the HQ component we want to call support. In fact, we call ourselves campus. It's not head office, it's campus. It's an environment where people are there to support others. It's an environment for people to learn also and be able to take that learning and expose it and, infuse it into our stores, into the people that are there generating that income.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that as well. There's just something, a uniqueness, a uniqueness. I remember an old chairman of a company that I worked for used to say, we are not headquarters. We are a support function.
Okay.
We are there to support the operations.
Yeah.
You don't have this bureaucracy, people sitting
Exactly.
the most support.
Yes.
That's
Oh, they're the top.
You're not generating any income.
Yes.
They are generating the income.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, for your customer experience, if you walk into Leroy Merlin, there's a customer experience. I can imagine that there's synergy or consistency in terms of your LED across all the stores in South Africa, to make sure that you've got that, you appoint the right people, you train them correctly, all of them understand what they do for your customer when they walk into the shops, and your customer experience as well. It's consistent. I can walk into any Leroy Merlin and I get the same reception almost in a sense.
Well, the magic behind it is really the people. But to be on the truthful side, it has to stem from our campus area. We do have a strategy to ensure that there's consistency in how our customers are greeted, how our customers are received, and also maybe not just from a brick and mortar store when they come into the stores, but also on an online platform point of view as well. But it's intentional that we have welcomers in all our stores, and sometimes it might seem a little weird because it's not always, I think that we underestimate the importance of having a welcomer. Somebody that can see you coming, that can welcome you, say hello, find out, are you looking for something?
It was like surprise when you see that. It's like, what do you want?
But it's important because sometimes you have customers that already are looking for something, looking for somebody to help them, direct them in the right direction. And that already becomes part of that relationship that you built with the customer.
From that moment.
That moment. So we know that our team in the front line are the most important. They always say first impressions last. And that's the impression that the customer gets when they walk through the doors, is the kind of assistance and help that I was given direction where to walk in the store. It's intimidating to come into a store that's quite large. It's a big box store.
You've got to buy, you've got to do something. You've got to fix something in your house. You maybe might not be DIY savvy, so you might not want to be there because you've got to fix something. You've got this very welcoming.
So you have somebody that's there that's going to lead you into the store. Maybe find somebody for you who can, best help you, direct you in the right direction. Kind of lead you into that customer journey into the store. And hopefully the customer might even find more things than they had intended to come into the store.
Exactly. And is that does it go down to the details of a training course or an induction process where it's so intentionally designed to make sure that it's consistent across the board, or was there more fluency between the shops?
So they are training programs, one where we push the basics of selling, just understanding the key basics. How do you introduce yourself to the customer?
Wow.
What are the questions that you ask to gather more information as to what they're looking for?
Sure.
Standard, make sure that everybody is participating in terms of those programs. But also not just that, I talked about first impressions last. It's the impression of the person that you see.
Yes.
Are they wearing their name badge? Do they look like they are a person that's presentable to greet the customer as well? It's even in those types of
details
and detail that goes in. And remember, safety, our stores, it's a DIY store.
Yes.
There's hazardous, ness around the store. Safety is key. PPE, safety boots. And I'm in the store with my safety shoes. And it was one of the times when I was integrating with staff. So I love going in and having a Q&A session with the teams, just getting them. There's a member of management. They've come through. We're interested in you. We want to know more about you. What are you aggrieved by? You never know, what makes you happy or not.
But that's what stood out in our discussions. We chatted about how HR at Leroy Merlin is not there in their office. I mean, you guys are integrated in your operations. It's like you're part of your workforce there at the bottom, so you understand how your people operate. Is that correct?
HR is part of the ops. So every operational store has got its HR individual. And I always say that a store is only strong when the store leader has the finance guy and the people person. So it becomes this little triangle, in the store. And that also ensures that there's that continuity between people being supported firsthand by somebody that they identify within the store, and also takes away that element that HR is a stick.
Yes.
You only see HR when there's an issue and the misconduct or there's incapacity. It's not a stick. The environment of the human side is an enabler. We're there to build. We're there to give guidance. We're there to be a strategic business partner to the store manager in an operational environment.
Incredible.
But from a business point of view, to the business,
Yeah.
Thinking ahead, where are we going?
Yeah.
What's going to enable us to get there? What skills do we need in the future?
Yeah.
What should we be evolving to now so that we're not kept wanting in the future, or we complacent because we think we're the best now?
Yes.
No, there's always something new that will come in the market.
Yeah.
Now, I always say a phone. You have the phone, and I'm not going to talk about a specific brand, but one where there's always a number to it. You don't know, is it number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? Now it's 15, then it's 16, and then it's 16A and 16B. But there's ever changingness, and that also happens within, the retail space as well.
Yeah.
We want to ensure that, that the HR component is a support and not a partner that's there just to kind of kick everybody into gear.
Just talking about brick and mortar and that high touch presence, how has Leroy Merlin or HR really enhanced practices or adapted or used it in any way in terms of technology?
So, I'm quite proud to say that every team member that we have, over 800 employees that we have currently, all have a smartphone. And for me, that's the beginning of technology.
Yes.
We haven't been ashamed to have all our people on a phone being able to give proper customer service right there, right then.
Wow.
So our teams are able to tell you, do we have enough stock? They're able to do the sales orders on their phones. It's essential to make sure that customer knows that they're getting first-hand help immediately.
Wow.
And not someone having to wait for somebody else to come from another office somewhere to check on a computer and then be able to do. But sometimes I find that our customers haven't grasped the fact that technology has to be in our stores.
Yes.
And our people, when you have a phone, it's not that you're playing on the phone, but it's there to enable that customer journey to be efficient, to be fast, and for them to get it.
Yeah.
But also from an e-commerce platform as well. Brick and mortar stores will always have a place.
Yes.
It's like training. I always say you can have online training, but face-to-face training is also important.
Yes.
And so that online platform is also something that we have used to ensure also for our teams. Because remember, when you have an online store, a customer will see something online, maybe come into the store, assuming that they will find the product. Maybe it was a marketplace product. So how do then our employees have to be the one that have the ability and knowledge to interface with that possibility that I can give you something else, but this one is online. Maybe let's make the sale online, and then we can get you other things that are in the store as well. So that kind of merge between e-commerce and the brick and mortar store.
Which is something that's still developing as well. Do you have bigger plans on the e-commerce side than what's okay? So there's big things coming, hey? Yes, I saw it. Was trying to wheel you in there, but now you can't.
But you need more. But no, the marketplace is it's a big platform for us. And already from about 5 years ago, just after COVID or during COVID, we made sure that platform is something that we are growing. And we've already started to see the rewards around building a capability for a consumer not to be limited by only going into a store and seeing certain number of items. You can imagine that a store is limited by space. We can't have everything.
Yes.
But an online store or a marketplace is unlimited. That's where you have the freedom and the energy to really go wild. And that's where we also capitalize, where we're able to provide a one-stop shopping environment, but going in between the actual store and the online store as well.
I'm quite intrigued. I'm quite intrigued. Do you appoint for specific skills? Are there specific skills that you are looking for when you're recruiting people? Or do you believe that you can take any person and you can convert them into a Leroy Merlin material? I say that.
It's a blend, Vaughan. It's a blend. It depends. There are some skills that we have no choice but to go to the market and find something that's specific that we require. But in general, there's a lot that we can build into a person. But what I have found also is and we've come to this realization, is there's some positions that require skilled individuals that understand the functionalities and specialities and interchanging. And one thing I'm very proud of is we had the capability of, we call it zigzagging. So you can be a junior buyer, which we call a procurement specialist, or somebody that assists the category manager. But your aspiration can be to be a store manager. And who says that because you were working in a alpha team, and then also diverge, go and be a store manager. So we will allow a zigzag for you to experience and expose yourself to other positions in the business with the thought process that eventually you will get to that position of, let's say, a store leader in this particular right. But there are some roles where they need specialist skills, and we'll go out to market to get those skills. But I would say around 80%, we are quite agile and flexible. We're able to provide and maneuver and say, this is an environment where you can grow. I think gone are the days when you came into an organization as an HR specialist, that's all you would do.
Yes.
We provide individuals the ability to say, I can change. I studied HR, but I'm really interested in logistics. And we can find a way to get you to that passion that you want without having all the rigmarole. And I think we're so stuck in the world of work to say experience, and it's great. I'm not underestimating.
No, sure. No.
But knowledge of the business and the value proposition of the business can also play a huge part in you being able to skill that person and train them to get them to a part of a career that they aspire to be in as well.
So what would some of the characteristics be for candidates wanting to join Leroy Merlin?
For me, passion for people. That's number one. I'm not going to take away education. I think, having a matric qualification is important, or an equivalent at least, NQF level 4, whether you've done a vocational qualification, as long as it's an NQF level 4, it's important and it's critical. Everything else we will be able to provide for you, because we can take you on a learnership. You can, if you have the need and aspiration to do more, there's something that you'll be able to provide you with. But other than that, it's a passion for the people, because whether you're in HQ, whether you are in an operational environment, you are with people, you're engaging with people. And that love has to come through.
And transfer through. And your career development, is it driven by employee or company, would you say?
Both. Both. There's an element where you can take a horse to water, but if it doesn't want to drink, there's nothing you can do. So there has to be an element where the individual has the aspiration and the need and the desire and the passion to grow. And then the business also is the enabler to provide the pathway and the resources and the capability and the training abilities to merge. So it cannot be a one-way stream. I always say to the guys, sometimes I'll go into a store, I'm like, it's not a monologue, guys. It's a dialogue. So also speak. So it's a dialogue between the two.
It's quite a challenge, because busy lives, pressures, and you almost get siloed and it's working. So now why do I want to change this? And, we often find employees coming to our environment saying that, they start this HR career wanting to get exposure in multiple areas, but just due to business pressures, not getting there. And it's always so sad to me, because you almost have to see or experience all those pillars to be able to understand where you want to be one day.
Exactly.
So, and you guys, is it something that you've got to force yourself to do, or is it something that happens naturally?
It's not always natural, I have to admit, because, there's HR and there's me, and we butt the people. And we think that every manager that we feels like...
It's just like, this is working.
And some managers like, I don't know about that HR department, because all they want to do is just get people to feel and touch and experience everything. So I think it's how we want to encourage our management also to allow individuals to have that exposure. But also in the graduate programs, because sometimes I feel that if we start something from scratch. We start bringing candidates in as graduates, expose them to different sides of the business. It also starts to show management that you can have individuals that can touch points. And when you're selling, you're saying selling points and the touch points of the business, and then for them to evolve into something that they really are interested in.
Should our managers, it's probably so important for our managers to understand that they have to do that for the employees. Yes, it's working. Yes, this person's in a career, but you almost have the duty as a manager to say, wow, I need to further this person's career. I need to give them exposure. Bridget and I were speaking about top performers the other day, and she spoke about stretch goals. How do I manage that amazing employee, even if there's not necessarily a promotional position at that moment? But I kind of sense that sometimes it's lacking, or that people don't understand their duties. That
I think for me, it's a cultural thing that we have.
Yeah.
People assume that growth means my title changes.
Yes.
Growth,
just more money or whatever.
my
Yeah.
level as a manager.
Yes.
Yes. Or the new buzzword leader.
Yes.
When you face the leader, and it shouldn't be. And I think if we can change the culture, that you don't only have to move upwards through a title change, but it can also be through the exposure that you're given and the ability to reach and touch and be more within your same area and be a specialist or a master or an expert in what you do. And you'll still be valued and compensated enough for that level of expertise that you have.
Yeah.
But it has to be a cultural change to take this concept of when I'm that title, therefore I have made it. When I'm that title, therefore I will get the remuneration.
Yeah.
We can have the best salesperson earning the same similar salary as a manager, not even the manager, because they are the trusted source. They are the subject matter expert.
Yeah.
They are the go-to guy when somebody needs something being done in a particular element.
Yeah.
It's almost like going back into the schooling environment, where parents still pretty much believe that for my child to complete high school, they need to go to traditional
Very
school,
traditional.
like 11, 12. There's vocational environments. Our country is in great need of artisans, boilermakers, welders, plumbers, electricians. But until there's a culture change to I don't know, kind of take the taboo out of, oh, you went to a trade school. Oh, okay, so sorry. But not realizing that you still need the capabilities of mathematics.
Exactly.
To a certain level, depending on which skill and which trade you are doing. But an important, once again, in our economy, driving the economy, but also driving, I think, employability, for our youth as well. Yeah.
It's so true. And do you find that your youngsters that you bring on board, that they've got the appropriate or sufficient foundations to start working? Or do you see that there's maybe a gap between our schooling system and finding employees, in the workplace?
It's very sad, Vaughan, to see some of the newcomers that are coming straight from the schooling environment.
Yeah.
The lack of communication, the lack of proper writing skills sometimes is a big concern. The quality sometimes of the matric that are or the education, or not even matric, the education that our children goes through. So there's a lot of foundational skills that we need to provide.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of understanding that we also need to provide for these guys that are coming in straight from school into the working environment. But nothing that cannot be taught. I mean, I always say the teacher of teachers is the retail environment.
Yeah.
A lot of very successful individuals will tell you, I was in retail. I worked in a textile environment.
Yeah.
I worked in a restaurant where you are conversing with the customer and you're selling something to them. That's the environment that people learn the most fundamentals.
Yeah, that's incredible. And some international principles, are we doing it very differently to what towards what our international, towards what your international colleagues are doing, or is it very similar, or are there some things that you've brought over from your international colleagues?
I always believe we work smarter and not harder.
Okay.
So a number of concepts, the training materials are vast and wide.
Okay.
A customer is a customer, it doesn't matter where they are around the world. So there are some elements that I've copied and pasted, but just maneuvered in a way to suit the South African environment.
Okay.
But, the cultural side of it, and I think the value proposition side that meets up with South Africa is one where we can't duplicate.
No. No,
We
it's
can't
not going to
replicate.
be relevant yet.
Yes.
Okay.
But I always say, guys in my team, let's work smarter,
Yes.
not harder.
Yes.
Let's go to the business unit. Let's ask that individual. Maybe they have something they can share with us so that we can go faster.
Yeah.
As we are building stores almost every year. We need to go fast in ensuring that our people know what it is that they need to do on the sales floor.
I love that.
Love that. Eh?
Leveraging, your global presence and leveraging what's being done there to suit the South African market. But let me ask this. It's easy when you say copy paste. When we look at our uniqueness, the reality is that there are many things that South Africa is light years behind in, right? What are some of the trends that you're seeing in the global market that you feel, whether in the retail space or in the HR space, that we should or can be playing in?
Surprising, Bridget, there's always a thought that we are in Africa and there's a couple, we are light years behind some of the elements a little bit. But the more I've traveled, with the company and the more I've seen, we're not that far back. I mean, I look at it. Let me just look at the company that I'm at right now, Leroy Merlin. We've been providing smartphones for our people. Sales consultant gets a smartphone, the best in the market,
Sure.
to enable them to work. So already, and some of our counterparts overseas were not even there at that stage, not being able to provide. So it's I suppose it's a blend. It's a blend, and maybe for us also because we're leveraged by quite a big group that is very successful overseas. We've wanted from the get-go to say we want to be number one. We want to push being number one, push the boundaries with our people, with our stores, with our offering, with our pricing. So it's been, we're kind of very competitive. Very competitive, and that's right.
And that's comforting, right? Because it's exactly that. It's that perception that we have yet to catch up and we have yet to learn, and what are we missing in this big wide world? And that's really comforting to say, actually, we're making headway. We're treading water as the rest of the globe is treading water. That's amazing to see. When I hear you speak of those challenges, and it's inspiring to see that even though in retail there's high attrition, but there's huge investment that Leroy Merlin is making in its people, irrespective of the fact that there can be high attrition. That kudos to you and the team, really.
And we have to. I think we have no choice as a provider. Being an employer, we are providers to others, and we have a duty to ensure that the people that are there, ensuring that we have revenue each and every single time, we invest in them. That's why we plug in all the money that we get in mandatory grants from the government is something that's plugged back into the training world. And yes, I know with teams, sometimes you can't please everyone. This one won't be to get the course, but they want it. This one wants this, but at the end of the day, I sleep very easy knowing that we do the best that we can for our team members. And the more I see these green triangles coming up, the more I know that we have a vested interest in this country. We want to see our people developing in our stores. We want to see more and more of our individuals developing within their own rights, whether they're working in campus, which is HQ, or working in the store. And we'll continue to invest, and because through investing in them, it means that we are investing in the customer journey as well. And in turn, the country, the country.
You spoke about lack of leadership, lack of skills, and how you guys are taking that upon yourselves. I think every business probably should be doing this at this moment, but they aren't. But you're feeding our country with next generation leaders. So now, technology that you use, is there? We speak very vividly about technology and what's the place for AI in our future. How can we do L&D more efficiently? We've got employees across the country. Is there something specifically that you do in terms of technology to make sure that you've got that consistency and transferring their skills?
We're in retail, so we want our guys to be on the floor. So we have to ensure that we are innovative enough to ensure that there are training programs for them that still enable them to learn, but at the same time be able to function on the floor or on the office or wherever they might be working. So our online platform, we have a wonderful learner experience platform that is available on the cell phone, because every employee has got a cell phone and email address.
And are there certain career paths almost built into that? So, typically an employee in a specific job would have a certain curriculum that they need to complete, or is it self-selected?
So there's a skills matrix for every job, and there's a certain number of programs that you'd have to meet and do, become competent in, for you to be skilled and well-versed in your job role.
Yeah.
And then when you're skilled and versed in your job role, you can then explore to other areas as well. Because if you have, an ability to choose, it's great.
Yeah.
We've been given that worldwide. You can choose what you want. But if you're also not settled and know exactly what your key goals need to be,
Yeah.
and for you to address those, then, we would have a dilution.
Yeah.
Also. We need people to understand the key competencies in the roles,
Yeah.
and then expand more to other areas once they've specialized in their role.
What we've used previously is we previously got exposed. So in our group, for instance, we were using LinkedIn Learning. And what was quite nice about that is you could really touch on anything that was of interest, but you still have your career path. You've got your critical skills. We operate in a FIRE environment, so there are compliance elements to it. But I almost get the sense that, it would be amazing if you can give your employees exposure to things that maybe traditionally wouldn't be in that role, and to have that flexibility.
It's true, but there has to be a blend.
Yeah.
I think we want people to get to know other skills, get exposed to different elements. And these days, there's so many different programs available. You go into your banking app.
Yeah.
I won't mention any banks. There's a specific bank when you go into that banking app, can allow you also to log in and pay very small premiums and rates to enable you to be skilled in other avenues. But it's also important that when you are employed for a function, first be skilled. First know, what is it that I'm here to do?
Yeah.
Let me be a specialist in what I'm doing, and then expand.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we come in with an idea that we just want to, if our fingers are in so many pots, exactly what is it that we know?
Focused.
We can't be a jack of all trades but master of none.
Yeah.
So we want to ensure that our people master, and then they can explore.
I love it.
And it's critical.
No, actually love it.
I'd love to know. Think L&D, right? Only L&D. If I told you budget wasn't a problem and access wasn't a problem and resource wasn't a problem, what would be on your wish list?
Wow. Wow. Sure, it's a hard one, Bridget, to just say, because there's so many things that I'd like to be able to do for our people. I have so many individuals wanting to come in, and some of them want to do MBAs and postgraduate qualifications and in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And these are endeavors that are quite large in terms of the cost investment in it. So one element would be to enable those individuals that want to venture into postgraduate qualifications, the ability to do so, because I know that return on investment would come directly back into the business, and it'll filter back to our consumer as well, with the skill that they will and the competencies that they'd be aware of now.
Yeah.
But also from our salespeople as well, is to enable them to participate in programs and courses from institutions that are accredited. It's so important for a South African to not only receive a certificate of attendance, but a certificate of the qualification and the unit standards from an accredited institution. And that's what I want to give all of them. Because sometimes not everybody has had an opportunity to study further. And the work environment is the opportunity to finally get that certificate that means something for them, and that's recognized. So that's what I would do.
So look, this has been absolutely phenomenal today. I genuinely think we can probably spend another 2 hours here today. And you so, when we did our introductions, you spoke about that you surrounded yourself early in your career with people that shared knowledge and that had influence with you. And I can see you doing that. It's a very reciprocal thing, what we're experiencing here today. So really thank you for sharing that with us. And man, it's incredible to see what you guys are doing. And it makes me extremely proud of, to be associated with this industry as well. So
thank you, Vaughan, and thank you, Bridget. It's been an absolute pleasure to share and get this opportunity. Such a fantastic platform. And it's been a pleasure really speaking with you guys today.
An absolute pleasure. As a final word, what advice would you give to HR professionals out there?
Right. For me, it would be, don't stop engaging with other individuals in the world of human resources.
Yeah.
Let's not be stuck in not wanting to share or expose ourselves. Network. It's important. The retail environment is vast.
Yeah.
Get to know what is the other retailer doing that might not be in the sphere that you're in. So they might not be in DIY, they might be in FMCG. Learn what are the best practices that they're doing, and let's all one another work together, because at the end of the day, we all have one goal.
Yeah.
It's a customer journey element that we want to enhance on. So let's continue to network with other HR specialists. Don't be afraid, and share the knowledge.
To our viewers, this has been one phenomenal episode. I think we could have probably spent another hour talking to Nthabiseng. But thank you for joining us, and stay tuned. Next episode will follow shortly. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. We really believe and share Nthabiseng's philosophy in terms of sharing knowledge and just making our world better. So have a good one. Bye.